Hi, welcome to the Gamesplainer. I'm Jeff the Gamesplainer, and today I'm Gamesplaining the Alpha. Now this is a 3-player minimum game. Please bear that in mind. 3-player minimum. If you only play 2 players, do not bother getting this game. It needs the 3 players for it to work. Having said that, I have a lot of games that are 3-player minimum. There's an expectation of when I purchased this one, I was actually expecting it to be a hidden movement kind of thing, or I'm going to hide what I'm doing. It's not that at all. Not at all. The whole idea is you're placing wolves out to eat or to prey on areas around the board. Whoever has the most wolves gets to roll the dice, and the dice will tell you how much food you get out of that area, if any. Sometimes everyone who's on an area will have to clash and have a fight, and I'll talk about that in a moment. Sometimes there are 2 or 3 or 4, it doesn't really matter how many players who have the same number of wolves on an area. What they are then able to do, or then have to do, is a prisoner's dilemma. And I think this is why I like this game so much. It's this prisoner's dilemma idea. So the whole concept on this prisoner's dilemma is if both parties choose to share, they get half each. If one party chooses to fight and the other chooses to share, the one who has fought gets everything. If they both fight, however, they lose a wolf and get nothing. And I think that's a really interesting way to play, because it suddenly becomes a very psychological game of which way are we going to go. There are no rules about what you're allowed to talk about. So what I found on my play of it was because each time around the board you're putting a wolf out, I've found that I was consistently putting wolves out onto the same spot because another player was also consistently putting wolves onto the same spot. And so what I said was, if I don't put any more wolves on here, you don't put any more wolves, let's let the dice decide. I had a conversation rather than just continually putting all the wolves out. And that freed up my wolves to go onto different areas of the board. Both of us stood by what we were doing and we let the dice decide. And that conversation, there's nothing about having it or not having it within the rules, because there's nothing about what you can or cannot communicate about. And I'm so used to these games where you can't communicate or whatever. I actually suddenly really like that I can do that. Anyone at the table can do that. You can step back on your word. And that's very much how do you play? Are you a player who actually says one thing and then does another? Because that's going to tamper our gaming relationship from now on. Every time you suggest something to me, I'm always going to think, now they went back on their word last time, so there's a very high possibility they will go back on their word this time. Whereas if you stay by your word, suddenly the gaming outside of this game, you're more trusted. There's such a psychological element on this game that I don't know if is necessarily thought of in the building or the construction of this game, but man, it's good. There's a C on the die. So if a die rolls a C, it means everyone who's on the location fights or has that prisoner's dilemma thing. And whoever wins that, all of the food gets shared between the people who are on the prisoner's dilemma. The tile then gets flipped over. That is one thing that I neglected when I played the game. There's the other side of the tile. It flips over for one turn and just guarantees 5 food or whatever it is from the carcasses. And then after that turn, it's flipped back. So just bear that in mind, that there's value in remembering. There's like a little rule, basically, that we need to remember as we're playing this game. Now, the one thing that really irks me, and I've spoken about this often, I've spoken about this with other games, the way that the game is packed. You'll notice that the board is locked in. That's really good. The problem is, do you see all these guys down here? They've fallen down with me just showing the box. They should be in different colors all up and down here. Side is. See, 3 different colors. That should be the same there. But because there's nothing that lives over the top of them, they move around and fall down into that one spot. It would have been so easy for the designers to have designed it so that the board lived there, stopping any falling, and this isn't going anywhere anyway. It would have been such an easy design choice. It frustrates me That's probably the best way to say it. It frustrates the heck out of me that people who design a really good game can fail on a box. And it's such a simple element. It really is. We just need to think through how these boxes live. Suggest that the owner of this game, or the designer of this game, stores all their games this way. Have a look behind me. They're all on this side. I have a shelf over there of games that must store that way up, otherwise they lose pieces and pieces fall around. But it frustrates me that I have to. I should have the choice of going this way or this way. And it just bugs me. That's really what it comes down to. I'm sorry to having that rant because this is a really good game. And it really annoys me because it's such a good game, but I don't really want to kind of get it in and out because there's a very high likelihood that that's going to just annoy me when I open up the box. That's my rant on that. Other than that, the game itself is really good. Really, really fun, thinky, not too much going on, so not having to remember too many rules, but there's enough thinking going on with the game to make it worthwhile. There's enough social ability with this game to be kind of, to just own the things that it can go for. There's a spots that is really easy to go for that can only take one of the wolves, not one from each pack, one wolf, no fighting, whatever. It's the sheep. And if you go after the sheep, you roll a die. You might get 12 food out of that. That's a fair amount of food. You might get 3 food. Half of the die side, so 6-sided die, so 3 sides, have a D on them. That means that your guy dies, which means he's actually removed from the game and you're playing the rest of the game with one less wolf. I had a player who constantly went there and constantly rolled X. X means nothing happens. So you just go back, you don't get any food, but you guys don't die. And there's X's on all of the spots. But he consistently got X, and then he was upset when he rolled a 3 and got 3 food out of the spot. I was like, well, be really happy that you haven't died at all, and you've gone after that every time. So yeah, there's a real, should I go after that one? Should I not go after that? There's a lot of food there, but there's a chance I won't have a guy. Then there's other spots down the bottom. So there's a near forest and a far forest or area that you can go to. If you go to the near spot, you just put your wolf on it. There's like 2 food or 4 food available kind of areas. The far ones, you're going to cost you a food to get there in the first place. But they've got like 7 or 8 food on them, kind of in that space. And then there's the larger spots, which actually need 5 guys on them to turn out any food at all, to even give you a chance at rolling the dice. And what I found playing with the group is only one player went there and they used up most of their guys to get out there and most of their points. Of course, each time you go out to a far food, you're going to cost you a food. So you actually go backwards on that score track to go out there. But the potential is quite high. There's also a potential to get nothing. And so in the gameplay, you'll notice that one of the guys actually, he uses a heck of a lot of food throughout the round, but doesn't actually get anything in return for using all that food. There's a real, which way do I go? You really need to go after the big one. You really need a couple of guys out there to go after it, not just one person. One person can go after it, but there's also a chance that nothing's going to happen. And if they've used 5 food to get out there to go after that big prey and they don't get anything out of it, then pretty much their entire round they haven't managed to achieve anything. Whereas if you can get a few people to go out after it, then there's a good amount of potential that you'll get some food, you'll be able to share it around, and you'll have wolves that will be able to go out to other spots. So there's just this constant thinking of, where do I go to? Do I want to go after that? Do I not want to be the alpha over there? Do I want to have the most over there? Do I want to just have one over there just in case those guys fight and neither of them get it? I'll get everything. There's a heck of a lot going on with all of the thinking that goes into this game. Look, I think I'll leave it there. This is the alpha. Please go ahead and watch my Gamesplanation. It's only one video for to see the game and how it works and how it all kind of interplays with itself. If you have any comments or suggestions, please write them below. If you have any games that you would like to be Gamesplaned, please shoot me an email to thegamesplainer@gmail.com. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter @thegamesplainer to keep up to date with the games I'm playing. Subscribe to my videos to keep up to date with the games that I'm gamesplaining. And until next time, enjoy gaming.